Hello everyone, I'm Bruffy1322 and this video is going to show the fastest fully upgraded motorbikes in terms of lap time. We're quickly going to go over the slowest vehicles right now, and as always the position counter is in the top left with the best lap time the bike achieved in the top right. This video only focuses on track performance, so if you're interested in top speed where braking, cornering, acceleration aren't relevant, click the link in the description for the top speed testing series. And if you want to know more information about this testing, including the extent to which it's accurate and how useful it is for you personally, have a read of the full description as everything that you need is in there. So the motorbikes class is the largest in the entire game with a total of 44 different vehicles. That is a huge amount, narrowly beating the sports and muscle classes which have about 42 and 40 respectively. And the one thing to keep in mind with bikes is that it is, in most situations, and those situations where it's not true I will talk about during this video, in most situations it's quicker to lean back on the bike and wheelie with it rather than leaning forward or doing nothing. I've talked about that in previous videos before, but even if it looks like the front wheel of the bike isn't raising off the ground, it is still quicker to lean back than it is to lean forward. Also to keep in mind is that there are some modifications on some bikes that increase traction. Just like a spoiler in Los Santos Customs for a car, you can put a spoiler on, it will increase traction, give you higher cornering speeds. There are some weird modifications like belt drive covers and things like that on some of these bikes that increase traction as well, so just keep that in mind when you're upgrading them in Los Santos Customs and make sure to look out for when that traction bar increases. Something to also keep in mind is that we've got quite a few bikes in this class that are quite similar, so copies of bikes like the Zombie Bobber and the Zombie Chopper. They get pretty much exactly the same lap time as you're seeing, and they're pretty much the same bike underneath. They have a few visual differences, but apart from that they're pretty much the same bike, and we see that quite a bit during this video. Now the Daemon that you're seeing here, this is actually the Lost version of the Daemon, and you can tell that by the fact that it's got Lost insignia on the seat cover. That is actually quicker than the brand new version of the Daemon which we got in a recent update, the one that you can customize quite a lot more. And the Lost version of the Daemon is the only bike in the entire class that you can't buy, so you have to find it on the street, you have to find it and store it in your garage. You can't actually buy it. Or every other bike that you can see in this video you can buy on the in-game websites. So we're quickly going through basically the bottom 24 of these bikes. We'll start to slow down when we get to 20th place, but the reason I'm doing that is because if we spend 30 seconds on every single bike, we'd be here for ages, and really there's not an awful lot to say about these bikes. Some of them are, they have various differences, but there's not an awful lot to say. They're very close in terms of lap time, as you're seeing. They're all very, very good lap times. These, 1 minute 6 lap times are mid-range sports car territory. Bikes in general are the quickest class in the game, so if you want to go quickly and you're not really bothered about what you're going quickly in, bikes are definitely the cheapest and the easiest way to do that. Something else to point out, that some vehicles that you think might be usable in off-road races, like the Enduro and the Manches, those bikes aren't available in off-road races. I will let you know which bikes are. The Vindicator here, obviously it gets its KERS power boost, but it's only got limited usage there. It only decreases its lap time by about a second over not using it, because it's got very limited usage. The boost that the KERS boost actually gives isn't all that great, and because it only regenerates when you're off the accelerator or actively braking, which you never really do very much in bikes, there's only basically 2 places around the lap that you can actually use it. So the KERS boost, it doesn't really gain an awful lot from having that, and it's still, it doesn't even make it into the top 20 even using that boost. So on 21st place we've got the Sanchez here, just missing out on the top 20, and that is the first bike that you can actually use in off-road races. A 104.5 is a very, very quick lap time. That's sort of top-end sports car territory of lap time, and because you can use it in off-road races, the Sanchez would be a lot quicker than all off-road vehicles that you can use otherwise. But we do have another bike that can be used in off-road races as well, which we'll come on to. So as you can see, as we're getting to the top 20, we're giving a little bit more time to each bike, just to so I can catch a bit of a breath and you can see which bikes are where. Again, the Electro is the same idea as the Vindicator. It does get the KERS power boost, which improves its lap time by about a second over not using it, but it's not going to make it the best bike in the game, and it's still only in 19th place even with the boost because it does have limited usage. Now in 18th place we've got the Nightblade with a 103.4, and then just ahead of it in 17th place we've got the Sanctus also with a 1 minute 3 lap time. and these are the two quickest sort of chopper style bikes, if you like. Something to point out with the Nightblade is that it is only one of two bikes in the entire game where it's actually quicker to lean forward than it is to lean backwards. That is, the Nightblade is one of them, the other one we'll see later on. The BF400 here in 16th place with a 103.2 is about a second quicker than the Sanchez and is the only other vehicle that you can use in off-road races from this class. So the BF400 and the Sanchez are both quicker than every other off-road vehicle in the game and will dominate, but ultimately the BF400 is the quickest thing to use in off-road races, despite it only being the 16th best and it being technically in the motorbikes class. So now we're into the top 15 with the FCR 100, one of the newest bikes that we've seen, and obviously we've got the custom versions to come, as you can see with the Diabolus custom. We saw the regular Diabolus earlier on. The custom versions are a little bit quicker. We're starting to get into some very, very competent lap times at this point with a 102.8. These are some sort of top end supercar levels of lap time, and ultimately when we get to the end of this list we are going to see lap times that are the quickest vehicles in the entire game, because that's what bikes can do. So in 13th place we've got the Gargoyle, and another example of vehicles that are pretty much exactly the same under the hood. The Gargoyle here gets a 102.628, and then just ahead of it in 12th place we're going to have the Cliffhanger, which gets a 102.5. so pretty much identical lap times, and also the bikes themselves are pretty much identical under the hood. You know, you could have either of these if you wanted and it would really make no difference. They're pretty much identical in terms of the way that they handle, the lap times that they get, and their overall speed. And like I said, there's quite a few instances of that further on down the list as well. Now in 11th place, just missing out on the top 10, is the Ruffian. Still a competent bike with a 102.4 lap time. Again, like I said, very competent lap times at this point. Very, very quick bikes. Ruffian still up there as one of the originals that was in the game, but it is just drops out of the top 10 because of a new bike, which is the FCR 1000 Custom, the newest bike that we've seen that's been added to the game. This is quite a quick bike, you know, 102.3, and breaking into that top 10 is absolutely nothing to be sniffed at. But as we'll see when we get to the very quickest bikes in the game, it's still quite a way off the pace, and even though we're into the top 10 out of 40 different vehicles, we're still quite a way off being the best lap times that we're going to see throughout the course of this video. So in 9th place we've got the Vortex, another new bike, a 101.0, quite a big chunk of lap time taken out there between 9th and 10th, certainly the biggest that we've seen throughout this video since the very, very early spots with the difference between, say, the Faggio and the Rat bike. The 101.0, a very, very good lap time, and very, very close to what we're going to see in 8th place with the Carbon RS, which gets a 1 minute 0.9. So we've got quite a few vehicles in this area that are all very, very close on lap time as well in this 1 minute mark, and it's quite an interesting moment at this point in terms of lap time, because we're getting very, very close to the quickest lap time that you're ever going to see from a car in terms of the quickest supercar, which obviously that will come in a future video. But yeah, these lap times are the quickest things that you're really going to see in terms of ultimate lap time from a car, and the bikes are going to ultimately overhaul what's possible there as well. 7th place here we've got the Hakuchu, which is very good in a straight line. It's got great wheeling ability as well, as you can see. A 1 minute 0.7 though, it's a good lap time, but it's still quite a way off the pace of what we're going to see from the ultimate top motorbikes in the game. And just ahead of it in 6th place we've got a brand new bike with the Defiler, one of the more recent bikes that we've seen. A 1 minute 0.3 is a very, very, very quick lap time, and it's interesting to see that we've got a mix of old and new bikes in the top part of this this list. But ultimately the Defiler does just miss out on that top 5 position because of an old bike, and this is kind of the start of a selection of old bikes all in close proximity. In 5th place we have the Double T. This was out when the game was released, and it's done well to hold its position so far. You know, it's always been a bit of an underrated bike with a 1 minute 0.2 lap time that's very, very quick, but it doesn't manage to break that magical 1 minute barrier. And there are only 4 vehicles in the entire game, all of which we're about to see, that get under the 1 minute mark in terms of the lap time around this circuit. The first of which is the Akuma in 4th place, just missing out on the top 3 by not much. The Akuma, again, we've got a big chunk of lap time taken out there over the Double T, a good 1.5 seconds with a 58.8 second lap time with the Akuma. The Akuma was always the easier of the two bikes to drive. We've seen this throughout all the testing that we've done on bikes throughout the entire game. The Akuma was always a few tenths of a second slower than what we see in third place, which is obviously the Barty 801. It was always a little bit slower, but the easier one to drive. You had to push a lot more with the Barty to get the ultimate lap time out of it, but when you did, it would obviously be the quickest, and it does have a very, very high top speed, as we'll see in the top speed testing video tomorrow as well. A 58.6 from the Barty, both very, very good lap times, and both the Akuma and the Barty are still competent. You know, you can still use them, especially if you're on a budget. These are very, very cheap bikes, especially compared to what we'll see in first and second places, and they are still relatively on the pace. You know, they're not too far off, and it's good to see some old vehicles, some vehicles that have been in the game since it was released, being able to still take it to these brand new and very expensive DLC vehicles. The second place of which is the Hakucho Drag. This is the second vehicle out of all of the vehicles in the bikes class that it's quicker to lean forward. Obviously the Nightblade was the first one that I mentioned, but with the Hakucho Drag, it is quicker to lean forward than it is to try to lean back and raise the front wheel up, because you can't really do that, and you will be getting higher acceleration and top speeds by leaning forward rather than leaning back and trying to wheelie with it. With a 57.5 second lap time, it is absolutely unbelievably quick. That is more than a second quicker than what we saw from the Barty 801, which is quite a significant amount of lap time, and it's sort of the new breed of top bikes in the game. The best of which is obviously the Shitaro. This thing is absolutely insane around the corners. It is only 1/10 of a second quicker than the Hakucho Drag. A 57.490 from the Shitaro. The Hakucho Drag was a 57.590. On tracks that have more cornering, the Shitaro will be a lot quicker. On tracks that have more reliance on speed and acceleration, the Hakucho Drag will be quicker. The acceleration of the Hakucho Drag and the top speed are both better than the Shitaro, but the Shitaro dominates everything in the entire game when it comes to cornering. It absolutely flies around these corners at such a high speed, and that's ultimately what gives it the incredible lap time. It's probably a lot easier to drive as well than the Hakucho Drag for novices and things like that, but it is also the most expensive, and if you're on a budget, I would certainly recommend the Barty or the Akuma rather than the top two bikes, because the prices of these bikes in particular is so high, and it just gets exponentially higher when we go from second to first place. But ultimately those are the lap times, and the quickest vehicle in the bikes class is the Shitaro. So at the end of these testing videos in the new format, we're going to be looking at the quickest vehicle in the class compared to the slowest vehicle in the class. And as a side-by-side comparison, when you're comparing the Shitaro to the Faggio, it kind of looks like the Shitaro's footage is being sped up. It's so much faster, and when you look at those differences in lap times, almost 33 seconds per lap difference over a 1 minute lap time is absolutely ridiculous. You could get, 3 laps done with the Shitaro in the time it takes you to do 2 laps in the Faggio. It's absolutely crazy that there's such a wide difference in terms of lap time from first to last place in the class. But yeah, it's just something that interesting that I think is worth putting in at the end of these videos, whilst I sort of round up and give my my thoughts on the video itself. But yeah, that's pretty much how we're going to go with these new testing videos. I'm very excited to get started with all of these. Obviously, it's been a long time coming. We're going to be doing a new video every single week for a different class, and the top speed testing videos will always be the very next day afterwards as well. So whenever you see one of these lap time testing videos, the next day you can make sure that you'll be notified of the top speed testing video for the very same class by subscribing. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We're going to be going through every single class. It will take us the best part of half a year to get through everything, but I'm very much looking forward to it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Remember to obviously read the description for more info, comment with your thoughts, like the video if you enjoyed or found it helpful, and obviously subscribe for more. Thank you all so much for watching. I really, really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.